And NYSCOPBA, we swung around without you, so please.
Thank you. Thank you, distinguished chairs and members of the legislature. I'm Michael Powers, president of NYSCOPBA. On behalf of more than 30,000 active and retired members, thank you for the opportunity to discuss the current state of New York's correctional facilities. Let me start by saying we support several items in the executive budget proposals, including body scanners, lowering the hiring age of correctional officer from 21 to 19, and of course with no prison closures in the fiscal year. But I'd like to focus on the current conditions in our correctional facilities. To put it bluntly, they're deteriorating, and our members are burnt out. Over the past several years, the decisions made by our elected leaders have resulted in tremendous consequences for the brave men and women who work in our prisons. 2022 was the most violent year in our history. Single-year records were set in both inmate-on-inmate staff assaults, inmate-on-inmate assaults. The state track data shows the beginning of record-setting violence immediately following the enactment of the HALT Act on April 1. Not only have the number of assaults significantly increased, but the severity, boldness, and brazen activity has also increased. Within the last year, a female correctional officer working at Attica Correctional Facility was sexually assaulted by an inmate as she was escorting him from a COVID-19 testing site. In plain sight of others, incarcerated individuals and staff, the inmate brazenly attacked the female officer, grabbing her in the groin and other multiple areas. And yet, thanks to the HALT Act, this individual was afforded 7 hours out of cell time with other rule-breaking inmates only days after this attack. I ask, how does this make prisons any safer? The viciousness of the attacks isn't targeted just towards staff, but the incarcerated community alike. Just a few short weeks ago after the enactment of HALT, 2 inmates were murdered by other inmates. These reprehensible acts match the total of in-facility homicides over the previous 3 years. Now, under the HALT Act, inmates who murder fellow inmates are legally required to receive out-of-cell time in congregate settings a mere 15 days after committing the horrific crime, putting other individuals and staff at risk being the next victim. How do you expect us to separate murderers now? How do you expect us to separate rival gangs now? The proponents of HALT refuse to acknowledge the data and equate individuals who are housed in special housing units as being tortured to deflect their own culpability in creating these horrific conditions. How is it torture to be secured in a cell after violent behavior when other people need to be protected from that very violence? How is it torture to be provided in their cell with an internet-connected tablet for reading books, listening to music, playing games, emailing, making phone calls to friends, family, and other loved ones? In society, lawbreakers go to prison to keep them separate from the population. The same used to be true in our correctional system. For the good of staff and those trying to safely do their time and move on with their lives. I ask you, members of the legislature, when will you act? I propose it's time for our elected leaders to listen to the subject matter experts, recognize the factual data, and reform HALT to keep everyone safe. Thank you for your time.